After years of being in the shadows, the Springtrap is finally getting a massive buff. People are calling it a rework, but as a ground attacker, my troops are cooked. Instead of launching a bunch of weak troops, it now launches the biggest troop that steps on it, including heroes. So this changes a lot for ground attackers. And in this video, I'm going to cover exactly what it means and how it could shift the balance between offense and defense. Enjoy the video. Let's start off by talking about what this is going to look like before and after the change. Nowadays, Springtraps are popped by things like Valkyries, Ice Golems, Yetis, and all those meta support troops excluding Root Riders. But now it will target the highest housing space within the radius, and this could totally mess up your RC charges because while the details aren't fully out yet, it's very apparent that heroes have a housing space and may get launched into the air, deal some damage, and get stunned potentially. Again, the full details aren't out, but this is making ground attacks a whole lot more challenging. Many armies like E-Titan and Root Rider Smash might start getting wrecked by Springtraps. This will almost force ground attackers to use tons of swarm units to get their ground attacks in, because nobody wants wasted 35 housing space when their Super Yeti gets launched 5 miles into space and it's just completely null and void. And as for the bases, Springtraps are gonna have more surgical placement as far as wall pathing, so I'm interested to see how hero walks will actually be affected by this, because if Springtraps start getting their surgical placement and trying to predict where the hero charges are going to be, this could be very detrimental to their strategy. And as far as the air versus ground meta goes, I think it's safe to say that air has officially taken it. Air has always been the best with the Hydra, Lalo. It's pretty much always been the meta, but with the Minion Prince release buffing Springtraps, this will tilt the scale a lot as far as the player base that's using ground. And depending on how much this changes my attack, I may have to switch over to air personally, or figure out some sort of swarm units. Not saying give up on ground yet, because of course we don't know the full details, and all of this is speculation from my perspective. One thing I'm also fearing is players revolting, because say this goes live and ground attackers are totally torched, every single one of those equipments that you've been focusing on may feel like they're not doing enough when your best troops are just getting launched or your heroes are getting stunned. And depending on how hard the Springtraps affects the heroes, Minion Prince may become the best hero in the game just because of this Springtrap change. Of course, there's many ways of counterplaying the Springtrap change, like using cheap fillers to trigger the traps before your big housing space guys walk in. But again, I feel like it's just so much to avoid. But we do have the Warden's ability. I'm going to bank on that carrying us through this, because at the moment, I'm a little fearful. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it's too early to say if it's going to break the game. But what I do know for sure is that ground attackers are going to have to rethink their pathing and funneling big time, along with their housing spaces of their ground army. Is this buff enough to make ground weaker, or is it just a small speed bump while air keeps running the game? Either way, this is one of the biggest changes we've seen to ground in years, so let's see if it changes the meta.